Hello and welcome to Geekverse Sidequest, your weekly stop for video game news, reviews, and more here on the Geekverse Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Mark Castrodilmus, and I have with me the Halo, or just Halo, Taylor Field. I don't know, it's so easy, but it's so not easy at the same time. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing very well. I am happy to be here. I'm happy to be talking about this game that we'll be talking about. And yeah, it's just good times.
And for the second week in a row here to talk about Starfield, the Starborn himself, Travis. How's it going tonight?
Very good. Excited. Last week was fun. I've had a lot more playtime with Starfield, so more to talk about, more to dissect. I'm excited to get Taylor's thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is our second Starfield week in a row. I think next week I might still bring up Starfield and just general side quest discussion, but
Make Kirkland listen to it about an hour. Just he sit there and just
yeah, just nodding his head.
I did this and then I did this.
I think we're gonna also keep this episode somewhat spoiler free, at least on like main quests and end game stuff, because we have Taylor here who's a little bit newer jumping into the game.
Don't let me hold you back. Just go have at it.
Well, I don't know if I want to do that. I have a plan here, Taylor. Quit trying to stomp on my plan. My plan is that at some point, me and Travis are going to join up for a third episode here, a very, just full-on spoiler discussion. That way people can easily opt in and out of however much they want to get into that kind of conversation. Because, of course, this is a Bethesda game. People might take months before they get to some of this main story stuff to find out what's going on there. So I don't want to spoil anything. So don't know what day or when, what week we're going to do that. We'll do that at some point soon. But yeah, anything else? What's dropping this week? I feel like I was away for a few days, so I'm a little out of the loop. What's hitting the feeds this week, boys?
Well, there's a big Ahsoka episode you're not watching, but it's not a big spoiler. But Hayden Christensen's back this week, so it's a big deal, obviously.
Damn.
So that's gonna be a big one. And then we'll have a newscast because we got some stuff to catch up on Marvel wise. Aquaman's first trailer is coming out that week, or on the Thursday, and then I can promote that next week the very first episode of the X-Men retrospective will be dropping to the public feed. Now, if that's a good tease because you can listen to it, and if you want 9 more episodes, that's on Patreon. I think with X-Men retrospective, which we'll talk about in the news. Obviously, I think the show's come out beginning of next year, so we got, I think, about 3 or 4 more episodes recorded. But yeah, so you get your first taste of X-Men retrospective. So start watching if you have any interest. Watch. I guess I should probably announce what episodes are there. I think it's like the first 6, but I'll put that out there. Just watch the Twitter feeds and everything. So yeah, just some. I'm excited for the X-Men retro to get out there for people. So
Yeah, definitely. That's been a lot of fun. Okay, I think I kind of want to just get right into it. Talk about some more Starfield here. So, obviously, if you missed last week, I think everyone should go back and listen to that. Me and Travis had a pretty lengthy discussion there. Really broke it down, and there's timestamps there. So, if you just want to see certain parts of the conversation, you can jump around, pick what you want to listen to. But we got Taylor here today. So, Taylor, how much time have you had with Starfield? Just to get your temperature check here.
Oh, I should have looked at my official log count, but I can say that I put a few days worth into it. I don't mean like a full 24 hours.
So 72
sessions,
hours. Okay.
I played over the course of a few.
he's beaten it 6 times.
Few days, a good hearty few hour sessions over the past few days, and it has been really unexpected. Actually, I was very leery on how I was going to feel with the combat because, as far as Bethesda titles go, with my past experience, I've not been a fan of firearms in their games. And notably Fallout, I've never really been able to jive with it. That's why I've always been able to just be like, hey, Elder Scrolls is my jam. Melee weapons, magic, it's much more easier to kind of for me to comprehend and get on board with. But I don't know if you want me to start any particular notion. I'm just kind of segueing into my overalls.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that because, yeah, I guess you've never really been much of a Fallout guy, but you're definitely huge into Skyrim. You also played Oblivion. I think you've even jumped into Morrowind a little bit in the past, right? So you're definitely more in the Elder Scrolls camp of things. But yeah, I want to hear about your character and journey and whatnot. But yeah, what are you thinking so far? Because combat-wise is one element of it, but this game has a lot going on. So how are you feeling just so far now that you're a few hours in?
Very overwhelmed at times. I felt like there was a pretty substantial disconnect on doing very simple things. I was trying to dock with a station, and I thought, man, I'm spending way too much time trying to figure this out. And it said like, oh, you just go into like your navigation, and that was the pop up in the game. I thought this is ridiculous, so I had to Google it, and finally, it's like, oh, you go into scan, and then you like hold A, and then you can hail it or you can dock with it. I'm like, man, that's so simple. And I wish that some things were maybe a little bit more easier to understand. But that being said, it's still very overwhelming in a very positive way. I love how expansive it is, and it's a lot more in tune than I was really expecting. And it's just really, it's really surpassing my expectations left, right, and center with the little minor things that you could do. And it feels very, to me, Elder Scrolls-ish with how I can tackle certain things and how I can do certain things. And I feel that nostalgia kicking in, but at the same time, it's mixed with something very fresh and very new. I'm very enticed with the story. I'm very easily getting sidetracked and doing different things. I've been doing the Ranger faction.
Nice.
And I've just been indulging in doing those, taking out pirates and stuff like that. It's been a lot of fun doing those side quests. I've been appreciating that. And just looking into different ways to get away with like stealing. I've been trying really to be good. And the contraband that I got, I went to that, like the den, the wolf system, and just sold it there because that's the trade authority. You can get away with it there. And that's good. But I've been trying to be a goody two shoes. And so I saw other people do this, and I've tried to replicate it, but you can like pick up a box and you can put a box over a person's head, and then you can like nudge the items into other rooms in the store, and then you can steal the item while they have the box on their head to stay hidden. It's super
Is the box
cheesy.
not enough? I feel like the box, as long as they don't see it, you're good to go.
They'll get up and they'll like walk towards you, right? Like when you're in a store, because they don't trust you. So the box is like that extra deterrent. So
It's funny though that because that was a Skyrim thing too. So I love that that's carried forward, and it seems so stupid, but I love that. I love that these games let you do stupid things like that if you want to mess around with it. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your character. What's your character's name? What's your kind of backstory? Yeah, I'm curious to hear what kind of freak you made over here.
Is his name Halo?
No, my guy's name is just Taylor. I thought let's just go simple and make it. And I was really caught off guard when Vasco was like, "Greetings, Captain Taylor." I was like, "Whoa!"
Oh, they do have that in there, hey?
I was eating that up. I was super on board with that. Just it never gets old.
Me and Travis has very uncommon names, so we haven't had that. But
No
I
one
was curious
said
if they were going to
advanced
do
to
that
me.
because that was a Fallout 4 thing. If there was like maybe 1,000 names in the game that were programmed in. If you had like for more common names, they would do that. That's hilarious. I haven't actually heard anyone mention that yet. So that's
What is it?
cool.
So what are your guys' names? Like, what does it say for you?
well, my name is
Well-
Pierdrono, so they definitely didn't code that shit into the game.
And they don't have Vance either. Vance isn't in it, so
They might
That's
have
surprising.
Vince, but Vance
Yeah.
is that's not common in my mind. I don't
No,
know.
it's
I
not
was
that.
expecting
I've only known one Vance in my life as like a real person, so but yeah.
I told Travis and Kirkland this just briefly because the first night that I played, I think it was the night that it came out. It's 2.5-month old baby. It's hard, getting in the groove. And I thought, I really want to play this game. And it was a long day. It was like 10:30 at night, and I had it pre-downloaded. I'm like, I finally got some time. Let's play. And so I put the game on, and I was involved with the story. I thought, okay, this is not as like crazy as like a Skyrim intro was with the dragon coming in right away and being dragonborn, but thought, okay, like this isn't a spoiler, but you start off and it's like the mining, everything like that. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. And there's one of these things you find. And so after that, I think I passed out because I woke up and there was a firefight going on. I thought, okay, this is crazy. I'm like, okay, like the Crimson Raiders, like, okay, we're fighting. And at some point, I woke up again in space and there were ships attacking me. I thought, oh my God.
So you were just dazing in and out of consciousness.
I was.
Oh my
And
God.
it was
You're
just,
like
it was super
you're like Mark
crazy.
Spector in the Moon Knight premiere. He just keeps waking up and stuff's going on.
My alter ego took over and was fighting the fight scenes for me.
Jesus.
But that being said, to segue into like the space combat, I am a huge sucker for games, and this is something that Star Wars Squadrons did that I really appreciate. I haven't been able to experience it in other games where you can have power systems and divert that into other areas of your ship. I love that so much. And being able to experience that in this game is wonderful. I love how there's certain missions where you can go and you can just blow up the enemy ships, or I could just go under the radar. I can divert all power from the shields and the weapons and put it into like my speed and my gravity and just kind of like go in very slowly to certain areas. It's just really, really nice to have those functionalities, I guess.
What
your
traits did you
character
pick?
Yeah.
Like what I've been using with my skill points.
Well, the traits, like, you can pick up to 3 traits at the beginning of the game, and so some of them are like you were born in a certain city, or like I picked the one where you have parents. You can have like a starter home. Do you remember what you picked for your traits?
I don't remember what I picked. I remember I was like, oh, bounty hunter, this is cool. I'm gonna go with like a bounty hunter route, but I don't remember the specific traits. I'll have to revisit that.
They are optional, so you might have just gone with none of them potentially.
Whoa.
That I honestly might have completely bypassed that because I remember like I was making my character and then you choose like bounty hunter and stuff. I'd where would I access that in retrospect now?
It would have been right at. Well, I don't know about now. It would have been right after you selected bounty hunter, but
When you open your menu and hit, I think Y, it brings up your character profile, and you could see it there if you
I'll have to go take a look.
wanted
Then.
to check, and that's where you would see your bounty hunter and all that kind of stuff. So what have you? So you've been doing mostly main quests. You've been doing. You said you mentioned the rangers. Like, yeah. What have you? What quests have you been following, or have you been just screwing around and going exploring and whatnot?
I did a little bit of screwing around. I haven't gone to Earth yet. I know that I saw some videos because I've done Mars, I've done the Moon, I've done Neptune, and I've seen like some people talk like, oh, people have already found Earth. And this is before I played the game. I was like, oh, that fast, eh? And then I see like, oh, it's in the second mission, you losers. And I was like, oh, okay. Like,
Jesus.
you can go to Earth like right away, literally.
Yeah,
you
you
got
go
to go
to
your ship.
yeah. So my goal is to thoroughly explore Earth because Sarah was talking about how, oh, Earth at one point, there's some remnants and stuff there. Amelia Clark is what I like to call her.
I see Emily
soulless.
Blunt.
I don't see Amelia Blunt. I see, yeah.
Well, her name's
Oh,
Emily Blunt. I don't know who Amelia Blunt
Oh,
is.
Amelia Blunt.
So I don't. What do you mean you don't see? She's literally the character from Day After Tomorrow. Like she's a British space captain. Like it's Emily Blunt. You know, it's the same thing.
That's fair.
Not Amelia. Yeah.
But yeah, I just
Earth's gonna
I've
go by
been-
fast. Don't worry.
I've been
You got
doing
time.
the main missions and I've been expediting that just to try and find like those things. Hence my name. But I've been really intrigued on that main storyline. That's why I've been kind of progressively pursuing it and just kind of like go. But yeah, the other side things I've been doing is just mostly just the ranger stuff, just finding money, hitting up those pirate hideouts, finding the contraband. I still can't get into the contraband like giant loot crates because I guess I have to work on my lock picking a little bit more. My skill points that I have, I've been accumulating it and throwing it onto my health and ranking up my carrying weight. I just feel like those are very important. And I have a couple other things, not really anything in science, but mostly just like weaponry and that sort of stuff. I feel like the carrying is very well done in this game because I'm not strapped and in cahoots like I would be in Skyrim where you're over encumbered. I like that they have a catch-22. You're going to go through your O2 and you can't really run for long periods of time, but you're definitely not screwed over in that sense. And there's so many different avenues. I can give stuff to Sarah. I can give stuff to other people that I've recruited. I've been looking for more crew members too, and I'm waiting for the right moment to get on their ship. But it's nice that you can diversify your inventory.
Yeah, I feel like we talked about that only a little bit last week, but that's something I'm really happy with how they've changed that because that's always been a frustration in Bethesda games where for most of them they just had it that when you hit that arbitrary weight limit, you just can't move at all, and then eventually they made it so you just move super slowly. But I love that they've made it in this game where you can still play the game fairly normally, and there's a lot of workarounds. Like there's tons of different ways, either upgrading your character with your O2 levels or all sorts of suits or suit upgrades that can minimize that, or there's like a million different drugs you can take, of course. But then there's also just like little gameplay things where if you're running on the ground, like, you know, with your feet, you burn energy a lot quicker than if you like are running and just jumping and then like hovering with your spaceship as well. You burn O2 a lot less quickly that way. And so on some planets where the gravity is, I guess, low enough, you can just like pretty much float forever, even if you are completely encumbered. And then obviously, giving your weight to giving all your crap to your companions, or making sure you're storing stuff in your ship. All these things like that's a huge thing for me, because sometimes you can get just like 2 or 3 100 pounds over your limit, and you can still just play the game regularly. You get a little bit of debuff here or there, but even if you're running endlessly and your O2, your CO2 is fully red, you never die. You take a lot of damage, but you'll never actually die. So that was that's a great improvement. And it's funny because I feel like I've heard so many people complaining about that in the last week.
Me too.
Going
I don't
more
understand.
in. I don't know if it's people like doing like it's their first Bethesda game or something, but
I know it's not. Some of these people I've heard are like game critics, or because they're like on my Twitter timeline, there's like recommended tweets. It's just like, I get it, and like I'm somebody like Taylor, like I have my weightlifting skill all the way to the max, but still, it's just like you just gotta get in that loop of either store stuff on your ship, your companion, and sell. Like, and I guess maybe that's the mindset, because I was playing to make sure I have lots of money and credit, so I would be selling stuff all the time very quickly. So maybe that's it. People don't want to have to be going to stores, but these stores aren't too far. There's a lot of big ones. So yeah, I found Fallout 4 was more annoying because one, you made me remember, I hated that you just couldn't move, but two, just felt like I filled up a lot quicker in Fallout 4, and it was harder to get rid of stuff. Where this, because it's like a lively world, there's stores and vendors everywhere, in my opinion. So I haven't had an issue with that, even before I had my weightlifting maxed out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like that's maybe a thing with Fallout, is there's just less shops generally.
Yes.
Whereas this game, there's, it's the settled systems. There's fucking people everywhere. Even if you go on a random planet, there might be one dude there, and who knows why he's buying all this random shit you're selling on these old books. Even though he's living on his own in this world, he probably needs spend his credits more wisely, but he doesn't care. He'll spend all five grand on whatever trash you have in your pocket. I love it.
You want to hear a story about my grandfather? Can you go looking for him? No.
Taylor, so you mentioned that you're a little maybe confused by something. This is a big discussion for us last week, is that this game is just like not very clear on a lot of its systems, which is weird because it's like very much not a Bethesda thing. I feel like I've always understood these games pretty well, surface value. Do you have any questions for us, for me and Travis, that we can help you? Because I feel like there's so many things that I would tell 2 week ago me, just little tips and tricks here or there, things that I did not understand. So do you have any questions? It sounds like you've been doing some Googling of your own if you come into something.
I've been doing some Googling. Yeah, like right out of the gate, I had a horrendous time trying to figure out how to go from planet to planet. Like solar system to solar system. Holy shit. I guess I do have one question. Do I need to be concerned about my fuel consumption, or is that just a gauge that just tells you how far you can travel? Because I find it kind of redundant. Like, why would they even have it there necessarily? Just say, oh, you need to. Because when I jump to one solar system, it's like, oh, you can jump here, but if you want to get to that one, you got to jump to one that's closer than that one. So I feel like the fuel consumption is kind of unnecessary to display.
Yeah, there's kind of two things going on. Like for each ship, you have like a grav jump range, like how many light years you can travel, and then there's your fuel consumption, and so those numbers could be different or higher or lower depending on what your ship is. Your light years is just pretty much like the range between stars that you could reach, like an individual, like one star to the next. And then your fuel is you pretty much got it, is like how many of those stars you can do in a row before you'll have to stop. But it like instantly refuels as soon as you do a grav jump, and you never actually have to refuel in this game, like when you're playing Warzone and you're going to load up on your gas like all the way through these battles. So it's I'd say more of like a superficial thing. It doesn't actually feel like a survival mechanic of balancing out health and all this stuff. It's more just to limit you. And I think the reason they do it is because they want you to not just fast travel everywhere and skip everything. They want you to go to other random solar systems, and maybe some of these systems, a quest will never take you there, and the only way you'd ever go there is because it's like a bridge to another place, and then you stop there and then you get interested and grabbed onto something, you think something looks cool. So I think that's kind of more the purpose. And then like on the map, like any red star is one that you've never traveled to, so you might think it just is like means high level stars, but typically it's just like, well, you haven't been to those ones yet. So they'll be like higher level, but it really just means you haven't been to it yet. But one of the most annoying things is like, I was just going through this because I just pretty much finished the game, and there's some later game areas that are really far, I guess, to the east on the map. And so I did all this planning to get to go from the, Alpha Centauri, the main planet, to get over to these star systems way over there. And then I had to go all the way back to do something, but I couldn't just click on Alpha Centauri and it go back that same way, because instead it wanted me to go on a different route, but then I didn't have all the systems discovered on that route. And it's like, this is the dumbest system. Like, I have a route back there. Why don't you pick another route than the one you're currently doing? Like a Google Maps, I'll show you like 2, 3, or 4 different ways you can go to your destination. You just click which one you want. You can't do it in this game. It just arbitrarily will pick one for you. Once again, there could be some hidden mechanic here, but that's what it seems like to me. Have you figured out that as well, Travis, or is it just like, no, the game just picks your route and you're stuck?
There's times it does that, and there's times where I hate that you'll say, oh, it's not far enough, you can't get there, and you do your whole route, and then you're one planet away, and it's like, well, actually your grav system's not good enough. So it's like, why couldn't you tell me that before I did all this jumping for no reason? So I get your idea is they want you maybe explore some systems you may not go to otherwise, but I think it's dumb. As I said before last week, I just wish that they would shorten that, then combine the systems, then maybe have 1 or 2 systems that have nothing other than just a cool planet to go look at. But the traveling system's still a pain in the butt. It's still not fun for me. It's anytime I can hopefully fast travel just directly in the menu, it's great. But I'm looking forward to hopefully some mods, because I know the PC community has like a better UI mod already, and I don't know if they're out yet. I think they're out for computer mods, right? Already you can do that.
I believe so. They might not be supported like within Steam, but
yes,
you can
I think
definitely
that's
get
what it
them
is.
other ways.
So I'm looking forward for that, because like even after another week with the game, not like, oh, this is clicked, it feels nice and effortlessly. No, it still feels pretty janky. It just doesn't feel smooth. It's not anything.
Yeah.
Anytime I gotta travel far, it's still, oh no.
Scrolling that map is so slow, and you like have to do it
Yeah.
with the D-pad, which is weird. It just it's
Don't
it's
like
pretty
that.
bizarre.
Oh.
Taylor, you mentioned that you were liking the ship combat. I want to hear more about that, because it's something that me and Travis were fairly negative on last week. So tell us about that. Why? I know you love that fantasy and you're into games that do that in general, but what is it about Starfield space combat that's working for you?
Well, I haven't really invested too much time in like enhancing my ship, changing my ship around. So from what I have just been able to experience, though, and being able to divert power to my 3 different weaponized options, I am really enjoying the sluggishness behind it. It feels rugged, and it just feels heavy, and I really, really like that. It feels like I'm actually flying a ship, whereas you look at something like a Star Wars Battlefront or Star Wars Squadrons, which is an equivalent, I'd say, it feels, okay, you're moving really wickedly fast. You're going like top speed in the Starfighter. That's cool. It's fun. It feels a lot more fantastical, I guess you could say. In this sense, though, I feel like I'm playing and flying a spaceship that feels genuinely like a human ship in the next like few centuries. And I really am engaged with that. And so I don't really find myself in the first person view. I'm usually in the third person, but even the first person is still very exciting. I find that more immersive, but I like the third person. Yeah.
I like that if you do first person, like if you're in your ship and you place any objects like in the ship, like just for decoration purpose, you can like put things on your dashboard, so to speak, whatever that'd be called, your console command, and like that'll show up when you're doing space combat and stuff.
That's cool.
I saw some cheesy person put like fucking tissues and like a bottle of lubricant there on his ship.
Just to clean the ship,
But you can put like, a bobblehead. You can put some like fun stuff up there, which I think is cool. But yeah, it's interesting. I think I've liked it a bit more as I'm just understanding it a bit more. I still don't love it, but I also look at parts of the skill tree, and there's specifically, I think it's just the piloting skill that allows you to like move your ship like left and right. I believe it is the thrusters, and then just gives you like a much better turn radius and stuff like that as well, which is interesting, right? Because you could spend 500,000 credits on the best ship in the game and get all these mods, but until you put 2 skill points into that skill tree in particular, you'll always be somewhat more limited in that way. And that's why I feel like every system in this game, it's not just leveling up one thing or buying one thing. It's like a culmination of these different mechanics that come together before you can like reach that full potential. And so I think that's interesting, because once again, there's so many skill trees that we criticize over the last few years, where the skill trees are just like 10% increase to damage, or 5% better this, 5% better that, and it's really boring. But then you have Starfield, which is doing a very different thing, where it does still have percentages for a lot of things, but then there's so many skills and we did mention this last week, that feel like very basic things, but that are kind of hidden in those skill trees. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword because without those skills, the game feels a bit bland at times with some of these mechanics, but then it also does make those skill points and leveling up feel even more rewarding because you're getting things that are very compelling. So it's kind of an interesting thing going on there, but I am excited to eventually get some of those piloting upgrades. It's definitely been low on my priority for my first playthrough here. But even just 1 or 2 points into that feels like it could make a pretty big difference on the way the ship combat feels.
The way that they've done skill trees too, in this sense, having not just an unlockable or a rank up when you use a point in it, which I feel like is kind of the general thing in the past, but you actually get a little objectives, which is very nice. So I really appreciate the incentive to kind of keep going and unlocking more as you go with those skill tree attributes.
Yeah, that's great. We talked about that a good amount last week. I wanted to bring in this other question here from Patreon. Lucas Hatch asks, not majorly game related, but I'm a big fan of the hardcover books that Bethesda have released for their games, guidebooks and strategy guides. I haven't seen one officially announced or released when Starfield dropped. Do you think there will be one? And if not, why not? So this is not something I really pay attention to anymore. I used to be big into guidebooks when I was younger, not something I'm really paying attention to. So I totally missed that they didn't have one for Starfield. And I think it's interesting because we just talked about this, how this game is a lot more confusing. There's a lot more systems than they've ever had before in their games. So this would almost be the best option to have a strategy guide for, to explain some of these systems, or have it written out on a piece of paper would probably be pretty helpful to flip through. So it's weird that they don't have it, especially when they've done a bunch of merch for this, where they did like the watch. They had like that Constellation case with the, premium edition, all that digital, or not even digital Deluxe, but all that bonus stuff you could purchase. So it's kind of weird. Why do you guys think they wouldn't do one for Starfield?
Just might not be worth the cost. Like maybe the last time they did it, not enough people went into it. I think. I don't think it's a wrong thing to say. I guarantee the majority of people aren't using that guide. They're using IGN. They're using YouTube. Anytime I have an issue, it's YouTube nowadays. So I think it's probably just, even if it's not a massive cost, it's still just, we know people are going to just do this. Not the collectors. Like, unfortunately, people like Lucas, it sucks because if you have a bunch of them, and even then they put a lot of effort into them, it just might be a kind of dying breed sort of thing where, well, even if we don't lose that much money, we're still losing money. Because I don't think too many people, unless you are specifically for a collector, I don't know who's buying collector guides anymore to like the walkthrough guides. Because like I said, you just go on Google, you can search it. Like even a couple days with the game being out in early access, I could still, I'm stuck here. What could I do? And that's the thing. And it's a lot easier. I don't have to flip through a book and look through some. So that could be it. That it's just not profitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was curious. So I was looking. I mean, they have a Legendary Collector's Edition Elder Scrolls guide for $561.
What the fuck?
That's a hardcover, and it looks absolutely sick. The other one that you could get, which is more like a standard guide paperback, is $200. Hardcover is $230. So
for Skyrim as well?
For Skyrim, yeah. There's definitely a small.
Was there one for Fallout 4?
That's why they cost so much. They got to make money off those people that are buying them,
Fallout 4, yeah, it looks like it has some survival guide. This one more like a simple paperback, $78. So you could probably find different versions.
I wonder if there's like a spoiler element to it, where they didn't want to like spoil certain elements of the game. Like I know there's definitely some things that they wanted to keep hidden, but like like even Fallout 4, like that's not like they would want people to flip through that book on day one and like spoil the main story for themselves. But you think, once again, in the digital age, when people are beating this game in 1 day or 2 days, like that stuff's going to get out pretty quick anyway. So it is kind of weird to see them not do anything, I guess, this time around.
I did find, sorry to interject, an unofficial, independently published strategy guide for Starfield for $14.
1 star.
The reviews are bad. Worst strategy guide I've ever seen.
No maps of any kind. That's what we need. We need maps because there's no fucking maps in this game.
No
this
pictures.
Is not a quality strategy guide. It looks like everything was downloaded online and printed on someone's home printer that was running on black ink, poorly organized. That's a good review.
This cracked me up. Like, I bought this guide because I thought it would help make the lack of in-game map more acceptable. I want to see maps of towns, locations, and shops, quest locations, points of interest. Absolutely terrible. Nothing about weapons or armor. So yeah, just be careful where you're buying your strategy books from.
Yeah.
Taylor, I feel like you go to EB Games more often than me or Travis. Do you still hit up EB Games every once in a while, right?
I'm usually there maybe like once every 2 weeks.
Are there still like a shit ton of strategy
Why?
guides happening? I remember they always used to be like under the counter. They would have like all the strategy guides kind of stacked up there. Or maybe they'd have another shelf over to the side. Is that
They
still a
do.
big thing?
They do still have some there, yeah. And I've been known to, like, depending on the game, I've been known to pick up the odd strategy guide.
What's the most recent one you bought? Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You know what?
the
I
completion
would love
guy.
if they had one
It's
for that.
probably Assassin's Creed Unity. A nice hard book.
Well, that was like fucking 8 years ago.
I know.
Yeah.
That's
That was a long time ago.
Latest one, yeah. I usually do for Assassin's Creed.
Well, apparently you haven't been. Look at it.
No.
Unity was like
Where's
5
Origin?
Assassin's
Where's
Creeds ago.
Odyssey?
Downhill since Unity. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That was the last great strategy guide.
Yeah, you bought off of Amazon.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe let's take our first break, and we'll get back. We'll get into more Starfield. Okay, we are back. I wanted to offer some corrections, maybe slash updates, because Travis, we said a lot of false things last week, and I don't think you can blame us.
I don't subscribe to that theory. I gotta hear the facts first.
Let's talk about it. So,
Yeah.
one of the things that we were talking about is that there was just seemingly like no water on planets, with a couple exceptions. Like, you know, Neon is obviously city is all about being over the ocean, and there was that Paradiso place. Which have you guys stumbled upon Paradiso yet?
Yeah, I did shut that out. That I said I saw some water there last week. I did say that because it's the only place I remember seeing water is Paradiso. Because I did.
Last week you said you hadn't been to Paradiso.
Oh, then I misspoke because I did. I must have was called something else because I just had to skip that quest in New Game Plus Paradiso. So I did. That's the quest where it's the settlers that have been gone for like 200 years, and I met up with them. So maybe I misspoke. But yeah, Paradiso.
Okay.
That I did do a full story there. So and I
Right.
do remember seeing water there. So that was a misspeak on me.
Right. Well, I mean, I would almost consider that an exception what we were talking about, though, because that's like, you know, a specifically handcrafted area that was designed to be like on a beach and whatnot. And since then, I have not really seen a whole lot of water, but I went online and searched up and see if other people could find oceans on these planets. And people can find them, and you just have to go to a coastal biome and get lucky, I guess, and walk a lot, and eventually you might find one or you might not. I don't think there's like rivers in the game, but I think there might be lakes or oceans that do pop up. I still have not really seen a lot of these other than like very specific main quest story areas and Paradiso as an exception that have like some water going on. But just a quick correction that you can go find oceans on these planets. It's just really fucking hard, and I don't think it should be that hard to find some cool water type areas, but that is difficult. Have you seen any cool lakes or oceans on your travels, Taylor?
I haven't really noticed that, actually.
People are lying. This is fake news.
I've noticed things that aren't water. That's just like other glowing liquid compounds and stuff like that, and like
Really?
caves and
Interesting.
whatnot.
Okay, in caves and
well,
In
liquid.
caves, yeah. Not large bodies or anything like that. I'm curious though, are there like ecosystems that you can explore? Can you go under the ocean in the water?
I don't think you can.
Or?
You can swim in this game, but I don't think you can swim down. I believe there is like fish that you can scan and find. I don't know if you
Nice.
can. I don't know if you could even like kill them or catch them in any way, because I still have not found an ocean in my travels. I've been doing some Googling since our past episode, and people can confirm that there are oceans on these planets, and I've seen a little bit more water since that episode.
Well, I saw footage of a guy who found an ocean, and he was just trying to see how far he could get out, and he was just like jumping and swimming out and out for minutes and minutes, and he eventually got so far out he couldn't see land anymore, and it was just to see what would happen, and I was just curious. I wanted to see how far he could really go.
Hopefully he doesn't run out of O2. He's just going to drown out there. Yeah, that's something that I guess whenever you go just randomly exploring on a planet, like you don't go to a landing pad or a point of interest, like wherever you drop, you can walk in whatever direction you want, and eventually you will hit like an invisible wall when it will tell you that you can't walk any further like you would expect in any other Bethesda game. And I listened to several podcast reviews in the last week. One of those said that you can walk for 15 minutes before you'll find one. One said a half an hour. One said 2 hours. So I have no fucking clue. Everyone seems to either everyone sucks at time or it's just truly that random and you'll find different stuff. So I don't know, but I guess there are limits to these biomes, but there are, of course, different biomes going on, but you can't travel between the different biomes other than like fast traveling from space once again. I also had said that from like the surface of any planet or moon, you can't like see any other planets up in space. And I've since seen a couple. You don't see very many, and I wish there was maybe more. And I think this is something that where it's maybe more realistic than it should be. Like I think they should make it a bit easier to see like the other stuff that's going on in the solar system. But I can understand what they did there. But I just wanted to correct myself. Technically, I lied. I didn't mean to. At that point, I had not seen anything in the sky other than just stars, and usually this is the solar system star. But that's a thing. This one I'm confused about, Travis. I'm gonna grill you on this. Where I said that you cannot get out of your pilot seat in space if you're just flying around in your ship, and then someone, I think it was the Great God Loves Me 69 in our Discord, said that hey, actually you can do that. And then Travis in the Discord, you said, "Oh yeah, I know you can get out of your seat. Of course I knew that." So you just let me sound like an idiot on the podcast last week. I have to get corrected. So what happened here?
No, I must misread that. I thought he was talking about the star, because I thought we were talking about that and the starport at the same time. I might have responded to the wrong thing because we were talking about getting out at the starport, like just landing at the starport. And because remember how
New Atlantis, is that what
yeah, I remember how I kept doing missions and I would never take me to starport, and then I said I just figured it out. So yeah, I think I just replied to the wrong one. I still haven't. Okay. I can on the record say that I have still not walked out of my ship in space. So I'm still.
Well, you can't leave the ship, but you can get out of your pilot's seat and walk around and stuff.
There's mods where you can leave the ship now. I forgot. I saw a mod where someone made an outpost on an asteroid today. Very impressive.
Yeah, some of the mods are very confusing because I saw someone floating around in outer space too. I'm like, well, I want to do that, but then it's like, you can't.
So yeah,
actually do it.
I'm still with you on that. Yeah, I was responding because I think you had put in a few things there, so that's where I was not on purpose trying to leave you hanging out. I've still not undocked and then just been walking around my ship.
And then the other thing was we were talking about persuasion and some of the mechanics going on there. And I don't think this is necessarily a we were wrong situation, but I just wanted to provide an update that I think is pretty cool, which is that in the, what is it called? The social skill tree is like the green skill tree with that has speech and bartering and mercantile and all that sort of stuff in there. And there's other skills like intimidate and like bribe is one of them. It might have a different name. And I thought it's pretty cool that in those persuasion checks, there'll always be a persuasion check, but then when you go into it, you might find other things other than the green, yellow, red difficulty slider. You might get like a gray one or a different color one that's like for like intimidation or bribe or something like that. So it brings in more options for the persuasion check, and I thought that was really cool. That's once again something that you have to spec into, and it's not just like you can always do the intimidate option, but your percent chance is really low. But until you've actually put one skill point into intimidate, you can't do that whatsoever. And I thought that was really cool, and it just gives you a little bit more variety there, and it makes those persuasion checks that you do a lot in this game even more engaging. So I'm just even more impressed by that system. I really like it.
I thought it was pretty cool too that you could actually wear certain clothing to affect that in like terms of persuasion or intimidation. Whether you want to wear like
clothing,
sexy clothing, or officers clothing too.
Yeah,
it's pretty neat that they have that stack with each other.
Yeah, and then you can even take certain drug, like alcohol. Traditionally, in all these games, and all of Elder Scrolls games and stuff, is always increases your personality stat. So you can just drink a beer, and then people will like you more. So if it's a persuasion check I really want to succeed at, or I think I see one coming up, I'll usually just, chug a bottle of vodka and then go into this dialogue situation and have a little bit more luck there. So that's a cool system. The more I'm engaging with that, the more I'm liking that. Travis, what have you been doing in the last week? What has your Starfield adventure been looking like?
So I'm hoping to be done for a little bit now. Today I had a classic. I'm going to play a little bit more before the review. Finish at 12 or 11. It's up till 3 a.m. again, doing that. I've logged in actual 3 days worth in 20 hours. So that's where I'm at. So I So I was kind of doing my thing, and I was doing last time me and Dylan left off. I was doing a lot of main quest stuff because not so much the story, but as I was saying, I just wanted to get my XP up. There's a lot of skills I wanted to get, buffered up. I wanted to try different ones, but at the same time, I didn't want to neglect the ones I liked already, like persuasion or the selling one we talked about, or the picking. So it's like there's a couple of skills that I had that okay, I really want to max these out. Then I'll start sprinkling, excuse me, with those other ones. So that's where I'm pretty much maxed out on those. My persuasion's maxed out, my shotgun, my pistol are maxed out, my jetpack's maxed out, my ship is about to be maxed out, which I've had a better experience with my ship. That's because I got a ship through a main quest though, so that's where that has is a new game plus thing, so that has made it a lot better. So I feel like it's a bit OP in a way, so that's where it just even attacks wise you just don't feel like you just get dogpiled on. So I put a bit more into that. I'm very close to finishing my scavenger one and my, like I said, whatever that one is, the buying and selling one. So I'm excited to go try some other ones. Stuff like bribery I'm not going to do because I'm a credit hoarder. I don't want to give away any credits. Like I'm trying to. I got I'm in New Game Plus. Had to start at 0, but I'm at $500,000 right now. So I'm trying to get as much. I want to get to that 1,000,000 point and then maybe start spending. So
I had a similar thing where I put 1 point into the bribery things. I wanted to start messing around with it a bit, and I was trying to mostly just get enough points in social to get to the 3rd and 4th tier stuff. I want to get that upgrade that lets you have up to 8 crew on your ship. I desperately want that. I want to have my full fleet going on. So I'm working towards that. So I was just getting essentially random things in the socials skill. And then I'm like, okay, well I need to actually do bribes to get to the 2nd rank, of course, 'cause that's how all the skills in this game work. But whenever it pops up in a persuasion check, I'm like, no, you're not taking my 2,000 out of my 500,000 credits now. You're not getting 2,000 out of me. So I need to do it just to get the skill ranked up at this point, but I still can't part with my 2,000 credits that I'm never going to use.
And the time I do them, I'm trying to woo Sarah, trying to romance her, and I'll give this person, they'll be like 2,000, 5,000, 9,000. Give them 2,000. Sarah disliked that. Oh, could have been a little more. It's like they still accepted the money.
So funny.
So I'm not gonna lie, I cheesed and just went back and saved because I'm trying to romance Sarah, which I have heard for people if that you're interested in that. It's either unconfirmed or very hard to do in New Game Plus, depending on which way you go. I can talk about New Game Plus in a non-spoiler way, so don't worry. I can say some of that stuff. I won't give anything story-wise, just a few little things that you gain and lose, but nothing, like I said, it's going to hamper your experience. But as I said, I was doing the main story stuff just to get the XP, just to do the skill tree. But then I had heard a lot of scuttlebutt about this New Game Plus, and I was somebody that I didn't know how much time I'd have with the game, and I wanted to at least get to it before this review. And then I was at this point where I'm going to get to New Game Plus and be done, and that created a whole new world for me. So 2 things on the story. One, take back what I said last week of I preferred Fallout 4 story. Absolutely not. I prefer this story. I really loved the back half of the story. I love some of the reveals. So Taylor, if you're going, at least try and finish the main quest. I would say I am in the camp where that's the big debate. Do you streamline it or do you not? I'm in the camp where I think you should streamline the main campaign and then do the side quest stuff, especially because you might be replaying some things. So that's where I am. But I really love the twists and turns, what they did with the artifacts, how the world works, and like I said, in the most non-spoiler way, it's the most fascinating, I think, clever way to do New Game Plus that I've ever seen. It's not a generic, boring thing. It's not just here's a little story bit. It literally feels like you're almost kind of playing a sequel to the first game in a New Game Plus, and I'm not saying, a whole new game. It's not like that. Try to manage your expectations, but you'll see what I mean when you're a couple missions in, and it's really. What I love too is not only just the setup of it, which I think is great. The first thing you can do is you can choose, do you want to do the main story or skip the main story? And I chose to skip the main story. You can still complete it in a way, because this isn't a spoiler. The first few minutes, it sets you up that it's all about the artifacts, right? You got to get those. So if you skip the main story, you can just find the artifacts. So you can still complete the game. But that's what I have heard for people. If you are in the romance option, I have heard it's quite hard to get there because I didn't do that in my original game. I was trying to here, and because the main quest will bring up a lot of ones, like a lot of like emotional stuff that you'll get, like maybe Sarah's bar will go up a lot. So far, it's tough, and I've even looked at Reddit where people haven't even. I don't think it's even been confirmed. Because you can like sleep with people in this game. There's no sex scenes, but you can like build all this stuff. It can rest you. You can build a relationship. You can get married. So that's a little disappointing. I know you might have some disappointments about New Game Plus, but it's a few things. But the story and New Game Plus has bumped this up. Like I think before I was like an 8, 8.5. This is like a 9, 9.5 for me now. It could never be a 10 with some of the like the bugs and some of the issues, just like we talk about, just quality of life stuff. But the New Game Plus, man, I've absolutely been enthralled with, and it just took me and it took me in another route where, as I said before, I was being the bad guy. I was being like a really over-the-top Han Solo, like even doing bad things. This go around, even the New Game Plus made me feel like I want to play a good guy. Now, I did make a questionable decision in this round because I will say again, now, as doing New Game Plus, as I said before to you, Dylan, I think I had some problems with like the RPG elements, not feeling like I was a really bad person. Almost same thing here where now I was replaying missions, and it's like even if I chose the good option, they would give me the same amount of credits because they would either be like, hey, I didn't do this job for free, and they're like, I guess there's no good guy in the system, give you $5,000. And then when I replay this one, I'd be like, I'm happy to help. Be like, here's a reward for you, and it's $5,000. So that stuff's been again really annoying. So now I went from playing to a bad guy, playing to a good guy, where now I'm just kind of willy nilly. Like I have a headcanon story in my mind, but I feel like you have to headcanon. I don't think you can really. It doesn't affect you too much. Just like the light tree, you can go and kill a bunch of innocent people, and Sarah will just be like, that wasn't too good. And then the next mission, she's like, here's a flower for you. Like, so I'm still disappointed on those aspects. That could almost bring me down to 9. But yeah, that's where I was gonna just get to New Game Plus, kind of play a day, and then I got hooked. There's certain scenarios that play very differently. Not very differently. Differently enough that makes it very cool. And I'm doing a bunch of stuff I hadn't done before, and the things I have done, I'm playing the different route, but. You do lose some things, but I thought it's like a nice fresh coat of paint. And I've just heard, because I listened to some podcasts and listened to some other people, I don't know if it's the same way from or read some other things. I don't know if it's the same for every loop, but you can go and finish the game, and then your game 3 or game 4 is going to be different. Like I was like, how could this happen? And I'm excited to see the YouTube compilation because I won't be able to do it, but see how many differences there is. Because there's just one thing that I heard someone do, like, holy shit, that's like I want to get there, but it's like, do I want to beat the game 4 times? Maybe not, but like that sounds fascinating. So this is a game that I even said to Dylan where last week I'll probably beat it, do a lot in the world, but then maybe never return to it. This New Game Plus almost makes me want to return to it because it'll act like here's a sequel, here's the third game, it's a fascinating. Like now I understand why Todd Howard said like the game doesn't really start till you beat it, and that's how it felt. It felt like I was in a whole new world. It's the same world, but a whole new world, and just a different sense of what I want to do and accomplish and how I want to play it. So yeah, it got me right back into it. And now I've just been, because I did the option where I skipped the main quest and I'm just doing a bunch of side quests. I told Dylan there's this good quest called the Crink's Legacy that's on the Crimson Fleet. That was fantastic. There's been other ones. I found the Mantis map finally, so I'm like, oh, I get to go back to Mantis and do that, but this time I'm going to be loaded up with guns and skill points and everything. So yeah, that's what I've been doing, mostly side quests, but a lot of because I told originally Dylan that I was going to go planet to planet and explore, but like this one side quest took me on a bunch of things at different planets. So, but I think for now I might play a little bit more, but I think I have to take a break because I think I went a little too hard this past couple of days because I was just enjoying it. But I was like, okay, I think I got the amount where I can take a break and I want to return to this with like a little bit clearer mind because yeah, there's a few 3 a.m. nights where I just couldn't put it down. Same thing I talked about last week. I find a quest, this legacy quest. My goodness, anytime it's like, oh, we found a ship that has a lot of goods on it, but we don't know what it is. I want to know what it was. And man, it paid off big time. I was like very happy with it. So that repetition, that Bethesda loop, it gets you. So I think for now, because I did a lot of stuff where I went to some stores, sold some stuff, I think I'm going to pause for a bit. But yeah, that's where I am, coming on about 4 days of play time. And yeah, it was great. So I've only had most of my cons are still the same. Like I said, my ship's a little bit better, but that's because I found a ship or got a ship I liked more. But most of my complaints are probably the same on the quality of life stuff and a few things. Like I said, the RPG elements disappoint me because, again, playing as a good guy, other than a certain character liking or disliking you, it doesn't feel like it changes too much, other than certain quests of like, of course, you have a choose this side, choose that side, and it's fascinating. So, but yeah, New Game Plus is it's a great thing. I was very happy with that.
Nice. Yeah, I have not quite had as much time, so I was out of town. I didn't have my Xbox with me, but I've still any other minute that I can, I've pretty much been playing the game. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, even though last week we both came in with a lot of criticism, I definitely love the game now. I'm definitely just super into it, super into the gameplay loop, super into the variety of it. I think the quest design is like the thing that's maybe surprising me the most. Once again, what I mentioned last week of just Bethesda being in a bit of a formulaic route for the last few games, so their quests all feel a little samey and not like you don't have a ton of meaningful choice. I feel like this game is really adding a lot of variety to that, and there's just so much to do, whether that is exploring or all these quests are like I just have 30 different activities in my quest log, and it's like
Oh,
I don't
I
know.
know.
I don't even know if I'm gonna go to talk to all these 100 people, let alone these like 15 quests I have, and then Constellation gives you like 4 or 5 different quests at a time, and you can choose how you want to go do all of that. So there's a lot to do, of course, and yeah. So my journey has been mostly same on the character building side of things. I kind of finished up all the crafting skill trees, pretty much maxed out all of those, which I think is a thing to do. It's a good thing to do early on, and then just like for future playthroughs and new game pluses and whatnot, just have those skills spec'd is a nice thing to have. And then just kind of going more into the social side of things and picking out other random skills that seem interesting at this point. And yeah, I've pretty much followed the same path as you, Travis, where I really followed down Constellation and the main story, which is interesting because that's never really what I do in a Bethesda game, and that's very rarely the highlight. I don't think any Bethesda game that is the best quest. I think Morrowind had a really good main quest, or Oblivion had its moments too, but it's always the side quests, the factions that are the highlights of these games. But I think this one was really, really great as well, and I'm excited to talk more about that in a spoiler discussion with Travis and Taylor if you play a bunch more of this game too later on. Definitely want to talk about some of that stuff. But yeah, I just rolled credits, beat Constellation, that main quest, like 15 minutes before we started recording. So it's a little fresh. I only briefly checked out what's going on with New Game Plus and whatnot. So I need to dive more in before I fully break out that discussion. But yeah, just really, really enjoying the game. And I'm just going to keep playing. I just love this thing. And I feel like I only did the one faction still. I finished the Freestar Rangers, and then other quests or other factions I've done maybe one or two quests. But I feel like there's so much more I need to go check out. And that's a very exciting thing.
And that was another reason I was happy I did the New Game Quest, because I couldn't get deputized. My mission was just bugged. So when you go do that and you go do a mission, and then Amelia, or whatever the hell her name is, I think it's Amelia F. Cox. Yeah.
Emily?
So you go talk to her, and then she's like, let's go talk to the marshal, get you deputized. And she walks upstairs. She would just stand in a room and stare at the marshal and wouldn't start the conversation. I'd restart the save over and over, did nothing. And even today, so I did that. Well, that was in my old playthrough, so I'm like, okay, that's the first thing I'm going to do, because Dylan told me to do that, and I didn't get to enjoy it because it was just bugged, just wouldn't work at all. So it's like, cool. So I did that today, and that worked out well, but then I went on a quest for to do one of the bounties to like progress the story, and the guys were just... I would just have to stand still. They would say they're around me, and I would just have to stand like still for about 30 to 45 seconds, and the enemies would like just materialize out of nowhere and walk through. Like I would go and check in the small area, these 3 rooms, nobody, but I kept saying red dots, and the captain would be like, "We can't proceed till the area is clear." And like, so I've had so many issues with the Rangers, like twice, like, and luckily I got past it. I figured out that I just had to stand there and just wait, and they would come. Like the game would just like, I guess, code them and get in there. But yeah, I've had so many issues, but that's I think next on the docket, because yeah, I finished. I'm on my new playthrough. I'm a Crimson Fleet member. I didn't feel great about it because I'm trying to be this good guy, but there was a $250,000 reward, so I was like, well, I think I'm gonna stick with this. I had cannoned it away to make myself a good guy again. I justified it. I had, but
You're
yeah,
just a
Rangers.
double agent, that's how.
Double angel who maybe killed a lot of innocent people, but they had it coming. They're kind of the assholes. So I headcaned it, but yeah, Rangers is next for me on that dock, and I want to go experience that.
I was gonna bring this up, Travis. You mentioned that you were really trying to build that relationship up with Sarah. Have you put any points into that? I forget what the skill is that gives you like
Leader?
25% increased affinity with your followers?
It's leader, yeah. I put in a little bit of it. It's just at the 1 tier, so I'm going to update it a little bit more and hope that that helps. But like I said, I do worry that the new game plus adds a little, or like I said, some people it might not happen because there's just certain times where your people would I imagine you guys have all had this where you'll be on a mission, they'll just want to talk to you, and you'll get like a bunch of options to ask them, and you can get a flirt option. I've not got a flirt option once since I've been doing New Game Plus. And when I talk, I feel like I've played that almost 4 days of playtime. Half was the first game and half is this game. So it's like I've almost played the same amount of the other game and I haven't got any flirting options. So that'll be disappointing to me if like you almost have to play the main quest to get those options to maybe grow with them. And even certain characters might not pop up because like Andrea hasn't popped up for me. And I don't think I've bumped into Sam yet because the main quest kind of like triggers those people, right? So if you skip it,
right.
but that's where it's like, okay, well, I will play through one day and maybe go on my third or fourth. But yeah, so I'm going to put some more skills in there, but I'm kind of going to wait a little bit more till more people start speaking about it so I don't waste skill trees in the future, and maybe another playthrough in the future I will do that.
Yeah. One thing that we didn't talk about at all last week, but I love the music in this game. I think it's really, really great. And I think the composer of this also did maybe Fallout 4 and therefore maybe 76. But that was the first time jumping into a Bethesda game. Before that, they've had, I think Jeremy Soule was his name, who did all the Elder Scrolls ones.
Okay.
Very legendary composer in that way. But I really, really enjoy what's going on here. Of course, the main theme is very catchy and good and all that. But I just feel like there's a lot of variety to this game. There's like sometimes some scary moments or just some overwhelming moments, and it captures that well. But then also one of the reasons why I love Aquila City so much is the music that plays there. I just love it as well. And I can't really put any of it into a box. Like, it does feel very unique, and it captures the grandiose scale of this game, but can still kind of put you in these places. And yeah, I just think it's fantastic. I am very surprised because I feel like, Fallout's kind of a weird one because there is score in that game, but mostly you're thinking about the radio and you're listening to that. And then Elder Scrolls is very forward with its music, I feel like. So you think it's much more top of mind, whereas Starfield, I think a lot of the times, I've spent so many hours in this game, and I feel like for many of those hours, there isn't even any music going on. But then when it comes in, it seems to be kind of just perfectly backdropping what I'm doing in that moment. So definitely a big fan of the soundtrack here. What do you guys think of it?
Notably, the soundtrack that pops off usually when your ship is taking off or you're launching or you're about to jump in this
kind of heroic sort of theme.
That heroic theme just reminds me of the Hunger Games when you specifically when the champions are being like wheeled out in their first showing into the public and they're wearing their super costumes and Katniss Everdeen's gonna like girl on fire mode. It's like a really powerful like boost of like sound. And the Starfield track sounds exactly like it. It just makes me think of Katniss Everdeen every time I'm taken off in space. That aside, though, I sympathize a lot with what you said. I couldn't agree more. And I think that the soundtrack is really good at complementing certain things that you're doing instead of like Skyrim. It's really emphasizing what you're doing. When you don't even know an enemy is nearby, that music's changed. You're like, oh shit, I'm in a combat mode right now. Whereas with Starfield, it's just very subtle, and it just really does complement the different things you're doing. Whether you're traveling through space, or whether you're getting into a different mode of combat on ground or in space or whatnot, it's just very, very nice. And I think that it's something that I'm going to listen to a lot of, because Skyrim and Elder Scrolls soundtracks, that's yeah, I know Travis, Ambient World, it's one of the go-tos. Like, it's just such a great thing to put on, and so I'll be definitely dabbling into Starfield's tracks for sure.
Yeah, that's the stuff I enjoy more. Like, the action stuff's good. I think you guys hit the nail on the head. Like, it all fits. The different cities has different modes, but I think it is just the, like I said last week, I try not to. It's sometimes when I travel, I'll put on podcasts. It's like, oh, I got to travel so long and do this. This is kind of annoying. But the score is quite good, and that's the times where I like it more, is more the subtle moments, more just the feeling and atmosphere. So, no, I like it. I like it in a way where it just kind of feels like it fits in, like it doesn't distract in a bad way. So no, I think it's quite well done.
Mm-hmm. And last week, me and Travis were not too hot on the visuals of this game. What do you think of it, Taylor? Are you impressed by the visuals? generally speaking?
Like all visuals or select visuals? Because I have issues.
Or how do
with
you just
select
how do you
ones.
feel about the event just overall? Then yeah.
I feel
I
like
think-
if you liked it, you would have just said yes. But
Yeah.
instead, you worded it the way you did. So I'm curious what parts of it you feel like are lacking.
Everything in space is beautiful. I think that's wonderful. It's great. When I get onto like ground surface of planets, I think that's pretty good too. I think that it visually, when I get into certain areas that are just combat zones or just like the wildlife stuff like that, I think it's very, very cool, very, very neat and visually appealing. But when you're doing the dialogue with people visually, it just totally pulls me out. When you're in a three-way conversation and they're talking, they're facing and talking to you, but they're not talking to you, they're talking to Sarah, it's like, this is really tripping me out. Or Sarah, it pops up with her screen and she's facing like to the side and her ear is facing you, like how Travis is right now, and it's just like, this is really
What do you
throwing
mean?
me
This
off.
is how I always podcast. This
Yeah.
is how I do all the time.
It's
Hey,
so
Travis.
weird. And then of course, not to mention just the soullessness. I feel like Elder
They are
Scrolls games
soullessness.
have
100%.
souls in their characters, like at least with the eyes, but like in these
those eyes,
characters,
man,
it's
holy
like
shit.
yeah, just they're talking.
Fallout
and
suffers from that too. I feel sometimes there's just that uncanny valley thing where it's like, I can't believe you're a character because you just look like a CG cutout, like whatever it is. It just doesn't. It's missing some element there, you know.
It's a shame because the way they talk, it's so much more captivating. As far as Bethesda titles go, I feel like this is the most like captivated I've been and engaged in conversation with the way that their dialogue is. I really, really like it. And yeah, just I see those eyes. It's like, man, you are the farthest thing from being a human being I've ever seen. Like you, I'm not on board with this at all. So that's probably the number one pullout for me.
It is just weird how shocking of a difference there is between like Constellation members or companions versus like the fucking riffraff in the streets and like the quality of the fate. You think it's like all the same tech going on. I don't know why their eyes are just so much different. I don't understand what's going on there. One thing that I think is really cool that I didn't pick up on my own, because I'm not a big screenshot guy, just generally speak, especially without social media. It's not like I'm taking pictures to post anything there. And like, what else am I going to do with a picture on my Xbox? But I love that in this game, whenever you take a screenshot in game, it will cycle it into the loading screens. So when you have loading screens, it'll populate some of your screenshots in there, along with screenshots from just there's other random images they'll have in there, or sometimes it'll still be a black screen. Maybe once you get enough screenshots, it'll always filter one in there. I guess you could also be evil with that and troll, but I only try to take really nice, beautiful pictures.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just for meme purposes or actually happened in person, but someone posted on like social media, they like zoomed in on this guy's butt and took a screenshot of it, and then while they're sitting
Right.
beside with their girlfriend,
I
it,
mean,
like,
Sarah's got it going on, so I mean,
Yeah.
I don't blame him if he's.
This was a Barrett's butt, and then Barrett's butt
Does
was
Barrett
just,
got it going on down there too?
Yeah, I guess. And then, but the screenshot was it cycled as a shot of Barrett's butt into the screensavers and stuff. But I think that's really cool. Not that part, but I think the idea, like, because I'm the same thing as you. Like, I never do that. I'm happy people enjoy photo mode. Like, I know in Spider-Man they're always popping up, but just like, I don't have time for photo mode. You know, maybe the young lad Travis back in the day would have been like, oh, photo mode. But I usually take one. I tweet that out and I'll be like, I'm now playing Spider-Man. I'm now playing this.
Right.
And that's usually about it. And that's good. But this, and I still haven't done it. So granted, but that almost pushed me like, oh, this would be cool to take like little memories and moments. But at the end of the day, it's fine. But I think it's still a very cool feature, because I think if you're in this game fully, you're going to do everything. I feel like planets, your adventures, your stories, moments, that's really cool, because you just constantly get this cycle of, man, like what I've done so far, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's just, so many planets in this game, of course, that I think it's nice to kind of grab a little memento from the really cool ones that stand out. Like, I got a really nice picture of just whatever, some random ass moon, but because of the way the lighting was, the position of the sun relative to the moon, just casting some really, really nice shadows. I'm like, I'm going to capture this moment. Now I can relive it every few minutes when I'm loading, when I'm spacefaring across this endless world. So that's
Take
a
a
cool thing.
screenshot of this. Just
I should
Sam.
take some more janky ones, actually. I didn't even
Yeah.
think to do that, but I could definitely take some of these lifeless NPCs in the cities. But
Do you ever screen capture any of your Crimson Fleet exploits there, Travis?
No, I
Your
felt
box full of contraband.
I felt no, the contraband. I didn't. That was by accident. I just took it because at this point, guys, I messaged him. I had played. That's probably into like the top of day 3. I'd never gotten any contraband. Like in my whole time, I wasn't looking for it. I didn't actually find it, and I hadn't done much with the Crimson Fleet, so it just kind of happened by accident. So no, like I said, the only time I felt guilty was in this round where I was trying to be a good guy, and a lot of lives were taken. But then I go, whatever. I'll fix it in the next life. Because that was my character's motivation. That's why I love the story, where I was like, oh, I can do some things differently this time, and I'm going to take my experience from the first game and do it again here and be like, you know what? The first game dictates I want to be a better person, but maybe this will dictate in my third story of, the greed and the power got to me, and then he's going to redo it again. So it's very Time Machine Guy Pearcey, but not going to take any screenshots of the dead people.
Have you guys done a lot of I think it's absolutely brilliant. I can hail other ships. That's one of my favorite things ever. I'll just be hailing ships and talking conversations. But do you guys do the whole like hail them and like, give me all your loot? This is a pirate attack.
Time to die, pretty boy. No, because I don't. I should experience with that a bit more. Maybe I will before I do like a third game plus. I just didn't want any potential bounties on me or anything like that because at the time I had some shitty ships. So to a bounty to pull like, hey, I know what you did. So and I never knew. So I haven't done that yet because I always see it there and I see all that attack options right there. But no, I haven't done that. Have you, Taylor?
I really, really want to. It's so tempting every time I see it.
Playing as bad guy's fun. You get to do all the stuff. So.
It's not fitting for the goody two shoes over here.
Yeah.
I know it's not, but I want to, I don't know. Maybe this new game plus mode thing that you're talking about where you can kind of change up your story dynamic. That sounds good. Because I the first run through with my games and there's that moral counter or moral compass. I just can't do it to myself. Feels disingenuous.
Yeah, I haven't done it much either just because I also am a goody two-shoes, just like you, Taylor, on this first playthrough at least. And then I am planning my second character. I want to go more into stealth. I want to kill more. I want to be Dark Brotherhood. I want to go full evil at that point. So I think I'll experiment more with some of those mechanics sometime around. I still haven't got the skill point into pickpocketing. I've never stolen from anyone. I sometimes steal from people, but I'll just take their ammo or med packs. They don't need them anyway.
What does
I'm
it
doing
say?
All the fighting.
Like stealing is bad or stealing's against the law, but sometimes you have to take something off of someone. I think that's how it like labels the the skill tree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, there's some weird stuff too with the stealing mechanic. Essentially, just like if you're gonna steal something, rather than take, it replaces it with the word steal, and then there's a little red marker, and then the contraband's yellow, so it's kind of obvious if you're stealing or not. But I don't know if you guys have had an experience, but like multiple shops I've walked into, and they'll have their wares on their shelf, and some of the stuff just says take rather than steal. So you can just you can just take stuff off the shopkeeper's shelves, but only some things. So I don't know if it's strictly like based on value. If it's like anything above 50 credits is considered stealing. I don't do it too often, but there's one lady in Aquila City who I'm always buying resources off of, and I remember just walking around her shop looking at all the different rocks that she had, and half of them I could just pick up and take, and no one would get mad at me. And I was like, all right, well, I mean, if you're offering, if it's like take a rock, leave a rock sort of thing, I'll definitely take a rock in this case. Let's see what else. Do you guys have any cool highlights? Any like favorite quests or anything you've been doing? Taylor, anything that's stood out yet? Putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, put me on the spot. I don't have anything that's really come to mind. I mean, that's just my lack of exploration because I've really just been committed to the Constellation storyline at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the quests that really send me all over the place. I get to go to these other planets. That's probably one of my favorite things. But I didn't realize that there was such tribulation tied to at least how you guys described it when you're going out to these farther planets. You can't even get to some of these places.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're just exploring like system to system, that's not really so much an issue because you're probably just going to go to everyone's closest to you or more farther to the east or the right side. So that probably wouldn't be a big deal. But I think also like you're probably still somewhat early on, and I feel like for me, like as I mentioned last episode, I was like fairly underwhelmed for the first like 10, 15, maybe even more hours of the game. It really had a delayed effect, which was weird and uncomfortable because every other Bethesda game I've been immediately engaged from minute one and just loved it. like the whole way through. So it was weird to have that in Starfield, where I was like, I don't like this, and then eventually had to find that love somewhere kind of deeper under when I understood some more of these systems. But what was that?
So your exploration and everything, it just wasn't doing it for you.
It was really just nothing in the first few hours, where I just felt like most of the quests were pretty boring. None of the stories were particularly captivating. When I was exploring, I was just let down by some of the visual quality and then the fact that none of these planets had water or anything. I was just like, what's going on here? Like, I'm just not finding this too engaging. And I think I was also very confused because there's just a lot of systems that are not explained very well. And yeah, until you get more skill points in your character, you do feel super basic in this game. So I think it had a delayed effect. And from what I've listened to other reviews and stuff, it seems like that's a pretty unanimous opinion from a lot of people. Almost everyone playing this game is that it just, for whatever reason, compared to other Bethesda games, takes a few hours if you're eventually going to like it before you really fall deep into it and find yourself enjoying it a lot more. So it sounds like you're maybe more positive on the earlier on, but maybe you just haven't found like that really highlight moment yet. But I can definitely point at a few quests now in my journey that are like, that was fucking sweet, and that's like up there with some of the best Bethesda questing I've ever had experience before. So it's definitely gets there.
I feel like that's exactly what, in retrospect now, after talking with you guys, I can kind of feel, because some of the stuff was much more slower paced and not as attractive story-wise. But when I played a little bit more of the Ranger stuff, when I got more into the Constellation storyline, that's when I was really kind of getting pulled in to what was going on. And there's a few other things too that I've been accumulating and letting my quest guide just pile up, because I'll be talking to random people, or like certain objectives will pop up, like, oh, go talk to this mayor, go talk to this person. And so I'm just letting them accumulate, and eventually once I think I'm going to get through the Constellation, that I'm going to go through and do all these side quest things, because like you've really tempted me, Travis. I really do want to get through this main Constellation storyline.
Well, yeah, it depends which route you go. If you go a certain route, none of those quests will be there. So that's the intriguing thing. It's kind of depends what you decide. You have to see. It all depends on your decisions. There's some things that can change up and everything. So that's what I say. The main game and how it ends, it presents you with some options. So you got some options. So it's good stuff. It's all good stuff. They can still be there. I'm not saying it's not gonna be like you'll hit the A button accidentally, like everything's wiped. No, it'll fully say, hey, this is what's gonna happen. But yeah, no, I had when I got into New Game Plus, I originally had this dumb idea of I'm not going to let the activities build up. Every time one pops up, I'm just going to do it. And then I just kind of got a bunch of quests that were just kind of samey or nothing too, like, oh, go do science on a tree. So like, and I did like, I can't remember what are the people in New Atlantis that are like, they're the cops or soldiers or agents or something. Whatever.
Oh yeah, just the UC something or other. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I haven't been back there since I've killed a few, so I don't know if that's going to go down. Like, but anyway, so that was like become an agent, and it's just, it's like, oh, here's a test flight simulator and all these stuff. So it's like, for a while, I was like, okay. I was at first regretting maybe I should have just kept doing the main quest and the side quest to mix it up, because I was like, I used to get nothing. But then I already shut out. It was the Crink's Legacy. I think that's how I think it's KR or
YX, right?
YX, yeah. There's no end there, so there you go. And then that leads you to, that's a side quest, and then there's like 3 side quests within the side quest. There's like this one where you're going to a very hoity-toity party. There's this one where you kind of bump into some people on a ship. That introduced me to the Wolf Den. That introduced me to a really cool like casino ship. Has anyone ever been on that yet?
The 0G one?
Is it where you gotta like end up putting like a combination to unlock some stuff?
I don't remember that. The one I was doing was like, yeah, there's just no gravity inside the space station, so you're flying around.
Yeah. If you did that and you didn't do the safe, you should definitely go back, because there's.
Yeah, I probably didn't have the quest, so I was just screwing around, floating around for a bit. And then
no, it wasn't even a quest. I found it on the way to a quest,
okay.
And it's like I think it's like the guy's bar. He has a computer and he has the combination. It's nothing crazy. It's not like a bunch of credits, but there's stuff there. So no, this legacy quest that really got me back into it. And again, that legacy one, and I know the factions are all over, but that's a good thing where I feel if you're kind of in a lull, definitely do one of the faction ones, and it felt like a main story. Like the ending of that felt just as good as the main story. The choices, what you could do, one of the ones, and then like a big. I have played in space, but and in like a big dogfight in space where there's like 20 of my ships and 20 of their ships, and it's just fucking pandemonium. So yeah, the legacy one, that one took me like a couple days, because it was one of those classic ones. Like, we have everything, but now we gotta worry about the trackers. And it's like, okay, I was getting annoyed at one point. I was like day 2 of like, hey, I gotta stop getting this. Like every time you get back, it's like there's one more thing you need to do. But in the long run, it was all worth it. So yeah, I don't know where I'll go next. Like I said, I'll probably take a break, but I'll probably go around, do some other things. I'm mad because there's one quest from my first one that I haven't bumped into again yet. So I'm hoping that can at some point come around. But yeah, that legacy took up a lot of my time. Then just doing a bunch of random stuff. Like in my playthrough, I just got to Alkali or whatever it's called, City now. Like I had no reason to go there. So, and I'd seen someone else talking about too that they play the game for 65 hours, never went to Neon City. It's like, it is crazy, the kind of route you can go on. So yeah, right now I think it'll do a mix of those factions. I don't think there's something you can unlock, which Dylan knows. I haven't done that in New Game Quest of all those different things. So I might go to some of those planets, and I don't think I'm going to do the mainline story yet. I'm going to wait a little bit. I'll probably wait till I'm satisfied with this game. So, but yeah, no, Legacy's the big one. That's one. If you can find it, definitely do it. So,
Nice. Let's take our last break. We'll be right back. Talk a little bit more Starfield. I think for me, my highlight quests would all be, well, especially in this last week. Like everything I've done is Constellation with like maybe a couple little side tangent things. Oh, I bought a not even a house, but I bought like. I don't know if you guys hung out in Neon. There's one area where there's like a bunch of little, essentially storage units that people can buy to live in, and it pretty much has like a bed. There's like a toilet right beside it, and I bought one of those for like 6,000 credits.
What you storing in there? That's such a small spot. How much mass you got in there? That's so small.
I'm storing pretty much nothing in it, but because I've almost completely maxed out I have now maxed out all the decoration things that you can do. I was filling that place with all sorts of different like little furniture. I had like a couple computer screens in there. I had like posters all over the wall. And it's like, I have never been back there, and I don't think I'll ever go back to this little thing. But I just had a good 20-minute sequence of like buying this stupid little shack and decorating it as much as I could, which actually technically was helpful because I had to put down a bunch of different outpost stuff in order to unlock the next level of the skill. And man, getting that fully upgraded is really helpful because then once you get the 4th level of that skill, every outpost thing you want to build costs half the amount of resources. So that's just going forward, everything's going to be so much easier to build. I'm going to have to get half as much adhesive as I normally do, talking about getting all that adhesive again. But yeah, I think other than that, a couple highlights for me or cool moments. One is there's this whole narrative in this game that I guess in the old wars of Earth and whatnot, there was a lot of mechs used, and then mechs have now been outlawed. So there's no mechs in this world anymore because they were just considered too dangerous, I suppose. They caused too much destruction, which I'm like, I don't know. Do some of these like spaceships not cause as much destruction as a mech? But who am I to say? And I think it's interesting, like politically within the world, there's a lot of people who still want there to be mechs, and they still want to use it's very much like, I guess, similar to the legality of guns. I guess maybe that's what they're trying to draw a little comparison here in this game to that situation in the US. But at one mission took me through an old mech base, and there was all these huge mechs in there that you can't get in them and drive them around or anything like that, but it was just like a mech factory, and so you got to see they're like freaking huge, and there's like different variations, and it was like it was an old abandoned base essentially that has been turned into this marauder location, so it's very dilapidated and broken down, and that was a really cool thing to see. And I feel like there was maybe a lot of notes in there that gave me a bit more context on what was going on with these mechs. And I guess the more I'm playing this game, the more I'm getting into some of the lore of it, and definitely some of the main quest stuff, which don't want to talk about here today, but definitely talk about in the future. There's some really cool things going on with certain locations and relations to Earth. I'll just leave it at that for today, but we'll come back to that thought a bit later on.
That's very neat about the mechs, because a few other people I've talked to, they've been like in different wars and stuff like that, but I didn't know that the mechs were directly used in, I guess, that context like you mentioned. And it goes hand in hand now, and then it kind of makes sense because I found a bunch of contraband, like mech parts and stuff like that. I was like, that's kind of weird why this is considered contraband. I didn't fully understand it, but now it makes sense.
Yep. Sells for a pretty penny. And then have either of you guys been to Red Mile?
No.
I forget the name of the planet or a system that it's in, but Red Mile is. I thought this was part of. No, I guess it was part of the Freestar Rangers, which is so maybe that's where I thought it was main quest, but I guess it's not. But Red Mile is this weird little, almost gamblers like parties place where the basic idea of it is like this. The structure is built on the edge of this huge, like ravine or crevasse. I don't know what you want to call it exactly, but there's this huge hole in the ground, almost like where a meteor struck. And then at the very end of this huge ravine, they've constructed this like pillar, and essentially it's just like this Hunger Games almost sort of situation where they send people down into this thing. There's all sorts of deadly aliens in there, and you have to make it to this totem, this area at the end, hit the button, and then you've like won the game. Then you got to make it back. And essentially it's just like the entertainment for this place while people are drinking and gambling and playing pool and hanging out. They just watch people run through this, and then there's like local celebrities because this guy's run the Red Mile like 15 times. And there's like leaderboards and whatnot. And then of course you can do it. So the first time I went there, I'm like, oh, of course I want to try this Red Mile thing out. So there's some interesting characters going on there. And yeah, I don't think the actual run itself was honestly all that compelling. It was very hard. The aliens in there were fucking powerful, and they have like range that they're just shooting their toxic poison breath at you and all this stuff. So it was pretty challenging. But eventually I did complete it, and I went back, and then my name was added to the leaderboard, so I'm kind of enshrined in there now, and there's some other characters going on there. And this was kind of both a pro and a con, but then through the Freestar Rangers quest line, I was actually taken there through that quest. And to get information from the leader of the person who runs Red Mile, I had to run the Red Mile in order to essentially make them happy. You know, I'm putting on a show for them and their patrons, and then I will get the reward I want. And so I was going in here, and I'm hoping like, ooh, okay, I've already done the Red Mile, so I don't have to do this again. I can just get this quest reward. But then they're like, no, like you got to run this thing again if you want this information. But then on the flip side, like they did acknowledge in all of that I had completed it before. They're like, well, you're gonna have to run it again if you want to get this information from me. So yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I was hoping like I already kind of did this quest content. I don't really want to do it again. But then like it actually was written into the story in a way, and they did make it make sense from the character's point of view. So I'm curious to see how much more of that there is in terms of if you engage with an area from a quest before you're supposed to. I feel like a lot of the time they'd probably want to write it in a way where you are forced to do it again, or I don't know, if there's a quest item at the end that was always spawned there and you grab that thing, then I don't know why you would need to do it again. Red Mile's a bit different where you're not actually grabbing something, you're just hitting a button, I guess. So technically you could do that multiple times. And now on my leaderboard, I have 2 wins next to my Red Mile counter. So I don't know why I don't want to do it more than that. I mean, it's not that compelling, but I don't know. Maybe there's some secret pathways that are good, or maybe the rewards you get from the aliens down there are particularly interesting. But yeah, that was a kind of another weird little location. It seems like there's just a lot of cool little things like this. Like we knew there was only going to be 4 major cities in this game, but it seems like there's a ton of just little outposts or smaller settlements, and I've already discovered quite a few of those, and it sounds like you've found a bunch more, Travis, that I haven't seen yet either. So
yeah, there's there's quite a bit. It's that, like I said, that's always a time where I think that's where the loop has been in, right when you think you're done. And there's of course other activities or side quests that, okay, I can go do those. But right when you think, oh, I haven't hit like a really good exploring one or just a good adventurous one, something always pops up. So yeah, I think they're good that way. It's very hard to put down, which is why I'm at a good stopping point where we're like, okay, I'll take a little break, put it down here, so. Yeah.
Taylor, multiple times in SideQuest history, you've prepared for a cast by playing a bunch of a game. But then I feel like after that SideQuest episode, you never go back and play that game again. It sounds like it's going to be different for Starfield, but are you going to go back and play more of this game? Are you compelled to go more? Are you just going to say you're going to play more, but then not actually? Tell me the honest truth. I want to know. Are you going to play more of this game?
Cue the Aliens Dark Descent.
Yes, I know. Aliens Dark Descent.
No, absolutely. I'm going to be going back and touching upon this game. I'm
How soon?
The story right after this cast. No,
Nice.
the story has compelled me enough that I really want to know what you guys referenced it earlier. These artifacts. I want to know more about what's going on with that, and I think that there's enough of a real good attraction to this universe that I'm just really engaged in exploring and learning more. It's given me a serious vibe of Halo. We're not like Halo with a Covenant or anything like that, but I feel like this is like Earth
the
in that
TV
Halo
show Halo?
universe. Definitely not. This
Oh,
is
okay.
like
Damn.
Earth and like humanity, like 100 years into the future, like 100 years before like Master Chief or whatever. It just feels like that aesthetic. It feels like that kind of environment. I'm really enjoying it. This is like one of my favorite like pieces, I guess, not piece, but like my favorite kind of view of humanity, I guess, or like portrayal is what I'm trying to say. And I like how the tech feels very modern day-ish, but it still feels like it has that sci-fi aesthetic to it, if that makes sense. So I really enjoy that, and it's just embedding me even further and further into this game. And while you guys have alluded to it, the start was a little, in retrospect, a little rocky to kind of get into it. The more you progress, the more you just get hooked into what's going on as you just explore more and such. So yes, I will be going back quite frequently.
Okay, that's good to hear. I will grill you next time you're on Sidequest. I'll be asking how what quests you've been up to. I'm curious. But it has been interesting to see that, because I feel like that is from players, reviewers, from everyone. It seems like that's kind of been the case where when the game came out, I feel like it was a bit lukewarm, or there's a lot of criticism coming out. There's still a lot of people that are really enjoying it, of course, in the reviews. Like the actual numbers were pretty good. But then I just feel like as the time's going on, people have been seeming to enjoy the game more and more. And I'm curious how long that kind of conversation is going to stay up, because obviously Bethesda's pretty big studio, and this is a big release for Xbox, and I'm sure they're going to leave it on their front page of that console for months and months, for the rest of the year at the very least. And already, like the concurrent, the peak concurrent players on Steam for Starfield has already surpassed whatever Skyrim's was, and to me that was kind of a surprising stat to see. And of course, that's only one stat of many. And some of these like sales numbers are just really weird with Starfield, because when you factor in Game Pass and all these different platforms now, and then there's people playing on the Microsoft Store on PC, or there's people playing on Steam specifically, and then you talk about those consoles, and then you talk about those premium edition early access upgrades that me and Travis bought. It's super hard to compare those numbers to a previous Bethesda game and look at the I guess success of it that way. But at least from my perspective, it seems like this thing is kind of hitting on that level that it was maybe expected to. Maybe not that A tier, or that, I guess I would put it in the A tier. Maybe not on that quite that hype tier of like something like a Cyberpunk, or maybe a Last of Us, but maybe just like a step below that. But obviously that's still very high up the ladder. So yeah,
I think it's that way for the critical route, because, like I said, I don't think it's going to win Game of the Year. Like at the award show, it won't. And I think I'm sure some people will give it the Game of the Year, but I feel like there's other games already that's heavily talked about. But I think on a success wise, it could be that, because remember, Cyberpunk had that, oh, this is going to be that next huge game, and then it came out, and you can argue if it flopped, didn't do well critically, but it didn't matter financially. Financially, CD Projekt Red fucking cleaned up, and they made tons of money off that game, right? It was a big success for them. So I think that's what this is that, obviously Fallout 4, that was big, and then 76 was kind of like a stumble, but I think this is a much needed win, because I think if this was stumbled, then you'd really be talking about, okay, what's going on with Bethesda right now, because I feel like I think I can understand, because I know there's been lots of talk. Like there's a couple, I think like IGN gave it a 7, and that was like a big conversation where like, oh, how low? Like either way, I feel like you can enjoy it to varying degrees, but I don't think you can look at this and say that it's like a big disappointment. I think you look and go, okay, there's certain things I don't like about, wish they did, and maybe it's not going to be a game I return to, but I don't think it's like a miss. Where 76, that was okay, this was a miss. Studios have that all the time. So, and success-wise, I think it's going to continue to grow. With it being on Games Pass, I know that I've already talked to some people that go, oh, I'm going to get to it just eventually, because they know it's big, right? That's the thing. They hear. That's what I tell people. I was telling this with Chris from Marvel Ultimate Alliance, because he's playing, what's the second Zelda game?
Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, he's doing that, and that's why I told him, like, hey, and he's going to get Starfield. That's why I said it's like it's a game that you need a lot of time for, and I think there will be people that, even if they were a little antsy. So I think, like, success-wise, downloads, traction, I think they got exactly what they need here, because Fallout 4 didn't win a bunch of the game. Like, I don't think Fallout 4 was the game of the year, the game of generation. It feels like that was Fallout 3 and Skyrim. Like that, those were the two that were the top dogs in that sort of conversation. But Fallout 4 was hugely successful for them, and that's what I think. This is where I think it's already like stamped that you'll get a Starfield 2 in 12 years, whenever that may be. But I feel like it's one of those where they won the game, and I think by a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that actually? So the next game we know is Elder Scrolls 6. That's going to be the next Bethesda game. And then what's
kids are
what's
graduating.
next? Do you guys think it'll be Fallout 5 or Starfield 2 at that point? Or something else? I feel like there's 0% chance that it's not one of those two things in my mind.
So I have a cheat. If there's no such thing as like a Fallout Vegas, like how you've talked about, there's always those rumblings and them working on that. If there's not a Fallout adjacent, then I think it would be Fallout 5. But I feel like it'd be in their best interest to do, some team, whether it's that team that did do New Vegas, to work on that one and then continue with Starfield, because you want to strike while the iron's hot. The iron's hot. I'm sounding like a Bethesda character here. Ironheart. Yeah, go check out our Black Panther Wakanda Forever review, Ironheart review when it happens in 5 years. I think you want to go when the iron is hot for Starfield, where Fallout, whenever you get Fallout 5, that's always going to be big. There's always going to be hype. That's always going to bring people in, where Starfield's newer established. But if I have my guess, I feel like they're going to do, unless there's more teams created, the idea of a Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Starfield, and now they'll go on that cycle. But maybe not. Maybe they'll, with 76, maybe they kind of count that as like, well, we did 4 and 76. New Vegas wasn't too far, from that either. Maybe let's wait on Fallout for a bit, because it's always going to be there. In 15 years, if they announce Fallout 5, people are going to lose it. It's not something they have to worry about. I think absent makes the heart grow fonder. So with this, it's working. I think, like you said, Dylan, more people are liking it as the weeks go on, I think. But it's also a massive game, right? So maybe that's the other thing, is let's change it up and do something else. And so I'm personally hoping for Starfield 2, especially because with the story and the new game plus the elements they introduce, I would love to see what they would do with it. Now, who knows? I had that feeling about Knights of the Old Republic, and they just completely bungled it because it set the story in such an interesting way. And it's like, oh, we're not going to do any of that. It's like, oh. So if it were to follow some sort of trajectory like this first game, I think you could have lots of interesting facets and hopefully improve on a few things. But they won't. They'll just do the work. So that's what I think.
Any thoughts on that, Taylor? What do you, or at least what do you think is going to be post Elder Scrolls 6 from Bethesda? And we know, I guess just putting this out there, that I forget if Todd confirmed it or just hinted at it or just maybe even suggested it, that Elder Scrolls 6 could be his last game with Bethesda.
Really?
Or like just his like he might retire at that point. We know he's somewhat related to the Indiana Jones project, of course, but he's talked about that a little bit. So if he goes out on that high note there, that also could change a lot in terms of what Bethesda's future would be like. Who's your new creative director? Who's heading the studio? All that sort of stuff. But yeah, Taylor. Well, actually, Taylor, what do you want and what do you think will happen?
I would want another Starfield after that, and I think they will probably do another Fallout. I really do.
Yeah.
And yeah, Fallout has its own large following. It's tricky now because I know Fallout is very different, but it feels
there's more
like
similarities to they're in the.
Exactly.
I feel like this is in the same family. Like if you were to tell me that Fallout and Starfield are the same universe, like just with even they're talking about the mech suits still, like I know that's a completely different mech thing. I think the only thing that sets Fallout apart is like the Pit Boys and that like very tongue in cheek, like very kind of more a little bit more comedic slant. But if you take that comedic slant, I feel like we talked about this leading up. There's no aliens in this game. There are aliens as far as creatures, but we're like, are there going to be different races? And there isn't, as far as I've seen, right? So and that's one thing I'm a little bit disappointed. I think that could have helped it differentiate from Fallout, because you could just say the alien monsters are the wasteland monsters with a fresh coat of paint.
That's
right?
great. That's great sequel stuff in my mind.
Yeah, and that's true. That would be
new
good.
races
Yeah,
that have different stats and la-di-da.
where Elder Scrolls is so much different. But Taylor, I was going to say, because you're not the biggest Fallout guy, but with Fallout 5, if it would likely be on Game Pass, would that be more likely for you to jump in now that you don't got to throw down $80 to $100?
well, 5, I guess it's not on Games Pass. 76 is on Games Pass, isn't it?
No, yeah, 5's definitely not on Game Pass. They haven't made it yet. I'm saying if it were like the next Fallout game, you get the hoopla, the build up, it's on Games Pass. Would you make that like, oh, I'm going to dive in, or are you going to insinuate that Starfield is like, oh, I'm good with like I have Starfield.
No, I'd be inclined to try it. I'm sure by that time, after Elder Scrolls 6 and whatnot, I'd probably be, I've gotten my hours invested in Starfield. But
You'll be a
if they
retirement home at that point.
if you retirement home, if they drop a big Bethesda title on Games Pass, I have no reason to be like, nah, I'm not. What am I too good to play this game? No, it's on Games Pass.
Tweet at Todd Howard. I'm too good for Fallout 5.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've said before, I really want Obsidian or just someone else to take the next Fallout game. And it's for a few reasons, but I also do feel like there is a chance here that we do skip a Fallout 5 in the rotation from Bethesda, not even because of that possibility, just because technically 76 is got like some big new DLC this year, and they're probably gonna, I don't know how many more they're gonna do, but like let's say another year or two worth of big support for that. I mean, they have a subscription service for the fucking one single game aside from Game Pass. So you have to imagine that they have to keep content coming to some extent, adding new cities and that sort of thing. So because of that, even though 76 didn't have that huge launch, I think because it's in the Game Pass ecosystem now and people can go play it, and there's Pittsburgh and all these other random cities that they've added into the game, I really could see them skipping that in the rotation and just being like, well, that's kind of where Fallout is right now, and it's being represented in post Starfield. That would probably be a good time for them to jump back and make their Fallout 5 or whatever their next Fallout experience is. So that's kind of what I want, and I also think there's a good chance for it. And yeah, I do really, really, really want to see what that sequel to Starfield will be, right? Because Elder Scrolls is something that's been around for so long, and it's obviously going to be iterative in how it's expanding whenever there's a new title. In Fallout 3, even though that was a new thing for Bethesda, it was still like, okay, this is already an established world with established rules and things like VATS already. I think VATS may have existed in the older games, not too sure. And then obviously with Fallout 4 and 76, they've already done like a couple sequels in their new Fallout universe. So really curious to see the ways in which they would want to take Starfield and expand it and better it. And I could see them doing something like implementing the ability to travel from your ship from outer space down to a planet's surface and getting that tech working, because then naturally that would be on whatever the next Xbox console is at that point too. And so yeah, just what other possibilities could they do now that the tech would be even better? And then what other things, like adding alien races if they want to do something like that, or just other classic, more iterative additions to the game. So that's definitely something I'd want to see, and it is maybe a bit biased because I don't love Fallout 4 as much as, well, any other Bethesda game at this point. I was talking about that last week, where I don't know where Starfield will land in my overall rankings, but I think it's climbed up quite a bit even just in this last week, and I still have so much to go and do. But it's definitely, I'd say it's already kind of surpassed Fallout 4 for me in terms of kind of being a more special experience in that way. So is there anything else we haven't mentioned today? Obviously, Travis, me and you got to do some big spoiler discussion here, and depending on how quickly Taylor gets through some of the main quest, potentially you can join us on that. But yeah, anything else that we haven't talked about yet?
I was gonna say, if you do just mainline the main quest, I think it's pretty doable. It's pretty fast. It's not that. It's when you start getting around with the other stuff. But no, like I said, overall, I've just enjoyed it a lot more. I think, as we talked about last week, I've only played the 2, but yeah, I definitely put the Starfield over Fallout 4, and that's not saying anything, because Fallout 4 had a great time with as well, and I'm excited to, in the build Elder Scrolls, maybe jump into Skyrim finally and try that out, and I'll be on 6 and stuff. So I'm enjoying it. Like I said, I'm gonna take a break because I just pounded that pavement so hard. It was to the point where I just literally feel fatigued because I'm like, oh, it's just because
it's an easy game to just fucking sink the hours into.
Because that's I tell them, like, there's always something. There's always something that, like, I want to go to bed, but it's like, oh, what is that? I don't want to wait till tomorrow. I don't want to wait till this, like, and you never know what it's gonna be. Because last night I literally like, oh, I'm not staying up late. I'm just gonna. I even told like I'll probably be in bed like 12 max. But it was just this mission that one thing led to another. It's like, well, I can't stop here, and I can't stop here, and I gotta go. And then it's like 3 a.m. like trying like save and brush my teeth fast to go to bed. Like it's gonna make any difference. But no, it's been highly enjoyable, much like I had with Fallout 4. I think Bethesda still's got that juice. I think it's still, I guess, like me and Dylan were talking about, I'd have to think it's, I guess, my game of the year right now, but granted, I'm not going to be playing Zelda, so you got that. Baldur's Gate's been flirting with me because I just like I have to ask Dylan more about that, even Kirkland, like what type of game that is, because they are smart marketing. They're like, oh, this is the game that everyone thought they wouldn't like, but they like it. And there's just little things I see in my timeline, like okay, and like, and just even little stupid real world stuff. Like 2 days ago, there was that bug. You guys heard about the horny bug, where accidentally it made all the characters more horny, like times 100, and then they had to put a statement like that was a mistake, like that. But I'm like, oh, that's fun. So I don't know if I'll get in that. Mortal Kombat's coming up. We got Spidey in 38 days, which is very exciting. Spider-Man or Super Mario Wonder. But even if this game doesn't end up being my game of the year, it's kind of like I think last year I kind of had like a 1A and a 1B. Highly enjoyable experience. I know we're not done talking about. We'll talk about probably with New Game Plus and near the end, then Video Game Awards. But yeah, just a great time. It's something that, and I'll say I only played like the $20-$30 like you did, Dylan, to get the upgrade. But even if I had dropped the whole, if there's no Games Pass, if I paid the full price, definitely like for Games Pass, if anyone's even thinking about it, this is a steal. Even if you don't do what me and Dylan did, where we got it early and some access, like the fact that if you're already paying your just Games Pass subscription just to get this, that's a steal, man, for this game to be on there. So yeah, no, great time so far.
Are you one of those live in that situation where Emily will wake up and be like, "Oh, you're up early," and you're like, "I never went to bed."
No, she just knows. She just knows. Even last night, she's like, "Yeah, sure, you're gonna come to bed early." And I had every intention to go to bed early, but it's just the mission kept me up and everything. So no, she I think she can get a good gauge because I get some bad eye bags if I've been up for a little bit. So, but luckily I have a woman that supports me to say, "Oh, you go do your game," So I'm happy about that. So
Love that for you.
yeah.
Taylor, any final notes from you, Mr. Field?
I think piggybacking off what you said, Travis, the fact that this is on Games Pass and you can get away with paying $15-$17 a month for Ultimate, and it's just boom right there. Like, oh my God, that's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. I feel bad for the PlayStation folks out there, but hopefully you guys got good PCs because it's the only way you're going to be playing this for any time foreseeable future.
Taylor, have you seen those mods people have been doing where they play the DualShock and they mod it that every time you boot up the game, it's the PlayStation like menu screen and stuff like that to make you pretend that you're playing on a PlayStation? It's pretty funny. I love it. I love it. Shout out to Bethesda for letting people just mess with their games. Absolutely incredible stuff. I can't wait. Todd says they're coming to next year, and this is one more now when you're talking about Dylan, like, oh, depending how much they are, this and that. This is a game that I love enough that I will probably be like, okay, like I'd be willing to spend even some more money on mod. And even then, people are making like Millennium Falcon and like the Starfield ship like by themselves already. Like not even mods, they're just like using certain parts. So like it's like you can just find builds. It's like again, great on that team to.
Yeah, I'm excited to get actually into that system. I've only ever added a couple things, like a similar situation to you, Travis, where my grav jump couldn't get me to a certain location. Rather than buying a whole new ship, which I could have, I had the credits. I just bought a new grav jump thing for my ship and installed it in there and found the right one. So yeah, I definitely am excited to check out more of that system because I've done so much of the customization for weapons and decoration outposts and all that house stuff. But yeah, I definitely haven't even really touched that system yet. And now that I have tons of credits, I feel like it's the perfect time to just, okay, I have free reign on this. Let me just spend 2 hours making a cool ship. So
because they're expensive. Ship parts, ships in general, that's a lot of money. So
gotta have the credits in the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be continue exploring. I'm gonna continue doing main storyline. It's just such a, as I said, an overwhelming game, but hardly in any sort of negative way. It's extremely fun. It's extremely in depth, and I feel like the attention to detail is just, it speaks for itself. I think anyone that enjoys Bethesda titles of the past, whether you are a fan of Elder Scrolls like myself or you're a fan of Fallout, you're gonna have that common ground that just kind of takes the best of both franchises and splices it into this game with something totally new. I think Bethesda has learned a lot with their past iterations and their other titles and have been able to build something really, really nice with this. My excitement really just flourishes at the idea of getting more DLC. And I know, like, well, you have to play more of this main game before you even think about DLC, Taylor. But I get excited thinking about like what else is going to happen. Are we going to be able to go to like other galaxies, like outside, like maybe not galaxies, but universes? Like are they going to add like whole other star maps? Like what kind of?
You don't got enough. You don't got enough planets there. There's all those red planets.
Gotta add more.
Greedy, Jesus. Yeah, we know there's something coming, some expansion that was part of the premium edition upgrade was, grandfathering you into that whenever they release it. So probably we'll find out more about that. I'm going to say maybe Xbox Showcase next June perhaps would be a good time for something like that to be announced. So we will keep an eye on that. But yes, thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back next week for me and Kirkland will be talking about some other games that we've been playing lately. I mean, another great game that I've been playing that I'm excited to talk about. So, that's all for today. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you again next time. Bye bye.